Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Sorry for a slight delay. It's technical difficulties, as usually happens in technology companies. So happy to be here on such a big crowd and share with you our knowledge and experience we have collected within One-Click Factory, and especially what's related to Business Central and Power Platform. So my name is Tautvydas Dagys, or shorter, you can call me Tony. I'm in One-Click Factory. I'm leading Power Platform and CRM team. You can check my LinkedIn as well. And shortly about One-Click Factory is the company which is founded more than 10 years ago. And the primary focus was the vision. Later, it grew up to support and services and products for Dynamics Axapta family. Later, we became ISV Development Center. And from the last year, so we have fulfilled the missing part of all the Dynamics family. So we joined CRM team together with Power Platform. And today I want to welcome not only on the name of One-Click Factory, but also on the name of QBS, because there are partners coming from QBS community. So today One-Click Factory and QBS are companies from the one group. So we call each other like sister companies. So what we have today, actually, the agenda is very simple. So my goal is to explain you Power Platform, but not from standard way, but more to take through some architectural overview, and also to check, to deconstruct the Power Platform so that we could more easily can connect to the integrations with Business Central, because there are many ways how to connect pieces between each other. And I would like to present a special kind of breakdown and thinking based on the technologies, how to implement that integration so that it would be easier to discuss later about the scenarios and usage of those two products together, Business Central and Power Platform. So a couple of notes about housekeeping. So this session is being recorded. So if you are writing some questions with your name, so it might be visible later. So if you're afraid of that, so then change your name in this webinar. But actually, we encourage you to be active. I saw the chat is floating. That's very nice. And please also raise your questions in the Q&A section. There is separate chat and Q&A sections. So we'll try to answer the questions in the end. And if we won't manage time-wise or due to some question complexity, we'll do that later, and we'll come up with the answer for those questions in the follow-up after this webinar. And also take a note in your right side of your panel of this screen. So you'll find also the handout section where you can download the summarized information about the content which I'll be presenting today, but as well as some brochures about our trainings which we have around Power Platform and Dynamics CRM. Okay, so I would like to mention that this webinar is part of the series of 4 webinars which will be happening later this month. And this is the first one, this level 200. So it means we're doing the overview of all the possibilities and all the possible scenarios okay, not maybe all, but most of the scenarios we have faced and encountered. Yeah, so and this will be more architectural overview, so it's not just marketing information. Then next week we'll have the webinar about Business Central and Power Platform connectivity via Power Platform connectors. So we'll go into demos and actual scenario implementation and some caveats and tips and tricks, some issues we would like to share with you if you are going this path to integrate Business Central and Power Platform. And then a week after, there will be a Business Central with a Dataverse. Also really interesting integration part, but technically it's totally different scenarios. So we are splitting it separately so that we can spend more time explaining how it works and what are the issues and etc. And the last one will be about Business Central and Power BI connectivity, which will be delivered then by my colleague Igor. So welcome to join all of those which are interesting to you. We'll share the links for registrations later. So I'll start with a Power Platform overview. But before that, I would like to ask you the question. So what is your experience with the Power Platform so far? Can you share by just clicking an answer in the poll? It's really interesting to see did you had already experience with that or not. So yeah, let's have it more interactive. Okay. So the answers are floating in. Okay, most of you haven't tried it. That's nice. That's good. I hope it won't be too complex, but I think we can later do really basic introductions to Power Platform itself, because now we are focusing mainly about how to combine those two worlds, Business Central and Power Platform. Okay, so 52% of you haven't tried it. 37% have tried it and somewhat experienced. Maybe you played, maybe you learned, and only 11% already had a project and are experienced. That's good. That's nice mix. Okay, and let's move forward. So quick question to my colleagues. Do you still see my screen? Okay, I assume that yes. I just start moving to our next slide, which is a very basic intro to Power Platform. And most probably you have seen many times, tons of occasions, because that standard Microsoft slide having all Power Platform components in one place. Okay, so Power Platform is a new addition. Let's say I'm a technical guy. I'm coming from CRM world. When I was doing CRM, then a Power Platform came in more from CRM world in the model-driven direction. Then the Canvas app world was born more from Excel and SharePoint world, and now those worlds are uniting and connecting to each other. And so in general, we have the whole set of areas or modules of Power Platform. So Power BI, you probably know that it's for analytics. Then we have Power Apps, and that's the most confusing part, because usually people mix up with the different types. I'll explain that shortly. And then we have Power Automate, which is for process automation. So you usually don't have interface, but you want to connect application to application. You want to integrate them. You want to do some process which spans a couple of systems like Business Central, SharePoint, CRM, some third-party system. And in the Power Automate, we can connect them all together. Then we have Power Virtual Agents, which is a tool, low-code tool to create a chatbots. So it's also customer user-facing component of Power Platform where you can create the chatbots. Then as the resources, we have data connectors, we have portals, we have AI Builder, which is artificial intelligence resource, which is simplified interface of artificial intelligence provided from Azure, but much easier pluggable into your flows, into your apps, and etc. with a low-code approach. And then we have Dataverse, which I'll explain shortly. And the old name for Dataverse is Common Data Service. Maybe you have heard that as well. So Microsoft rebranded it a while ago, but in people's mind, sometimes it's still Common Data Service. Now, I want to emphasize that there's also always a misconception that when you say Power Apps, usually people who didn't have any experience with a CRM, they would say that, yeah, this is Canvas apps, those small, tiny mobile applications. For some, you can play with that and nothing serious. And people who are coming from CRM world, they would say that, yeah, Power Apps is model-driven applications because that's how CRM is built. And both of them are called Power Apps, but in general, technically, it's kind of different approach how you build it and how technically you create those applications. Of course, today, the world is merging by embedding one to each other for easier usage, but the technologies beneath, they're still different. So Canvas Apps is the way how to create a pixel perfect your custom user interface design as you wish and combine many data sources. You can, in the one application, directly you can connect Business Central, CRM, I don't know, some planner application, third-party product lifecycle management system, anything you like, even public services like Twitter or LinkedIn, and etc. While model-driven apps starts from the model, data model, and data model starts in the database. So we are building the apps on top of Dataverse. So we built tables, and out of tables, we're getting forms, views, and dashboards. And we have much less of flexibility on the interface because it's more kind of a business data-driven application. But we can get it much faster because all the navigation is solved for us. We don't need to program and develop that. Of course, there is possibility to develop and add real code, .NET and JavaScript and etc. But the beginning is much easier and faster if you need such a data-driven app. And of course, it runs on the single data source, which is called Dataverse. Additionally, we have Power App portals, which solves us the scenario when we want to expose our data to external audiences, because Power Apps by design and other components in Power Platform is for internal users within your company, because you need to have a license, you need to have your company account. And if you want to create a self-service portal like for your customers or your vendors to track the orders, to track your support cases or something in self-service mode, you can expose the same data from the Dataverse and with, of course, with additional security level, authentication levels and everything, but you can get it with this Power App Portals component. So now, let's go into a deconstruction and let's see how we can tear apart the Power Platform. And I'm using this approach that we call it connector-based part world. Then we call it Dataverse. because Dataverse is originating from CRM. Connector-based is pretty new, and it's originating, it's pretty freshly created and just inspired by SharePoint and Excel side. And then, of course, we have Power BI. It's a separate thing, and coming also from SQL Server and Excel world as well. Okay, so let's get into and compare this modern and Dataverse, because Power BI is natural, so it's clear what it is. So let's take a look into connector-based approach and what we have in this connector-based part. So we have Canvas apps, we have Power Automate flows, Cloud flows, we have Power Virtual Agents, and AI Builder. And so just quickly summarizing, what is the connector? So connector is a Microsoft defined approach where you define the piece of configuration and you define how you will speak to external sources. It could be cloud, it could be on-premise, because Microsoft has on-premise data gateway. So you can connect equally easily to cloud services and on-premise data, databases, file shares, etc. And Microsoft has built itself today, so it's close to 500 or more than 500 connectors. And Microsoft is splitting them into two categories when it comes to Power Platform context. So it's standard connectors and premium connectors. You can find the actual list of those connectors under these addresses, links. This is called connector reference, because Microsoft is adding them constantly, so the number is always growing. And you can see that these connectors are also shared with the Azure Logic apps. So it's additional service which is sharing the same infrastructure, and it's bigger brother of Power Automate. And you can use it for integration between systems as well. But we're not limited to the connectors which Microsoft has developed. So we can create our own custom connectors. So usually it's more or less simple. By declaring API definitions, you can define how we are speaking to certain APIs. Now they're also expanding it, and you can add your C# code to do more advanced data transformations within that connector. So it means that this custom connector, you can connect to the same Business Central, and we'll need that actually. I'll explain it in our further sessions, but you can connect to any other system which don't have connector but has APIs, or you can create your own API as a developer with some advanced logic, calculations or something, and then connect with a custom connector to a Power Platform, Power Apps, or Power Automate flows. So now we are traveling through this modern part of Power Platform. So let's check the first component there is Power Automate. So Power Automate has two areas or two walls, is Cloud Flows and Desktop Flows. Desktop Flows are really recent addition from last year. Microsoft acquired a company called Softomotive, which is provider for robotic process automation. And Cloud Flows can manage that part as well, and actually it opens a vast majority of scenarios to integrate to the systems which don't have APIs. So we can just record the actions as we do with the Excel matrices, for example, and the desktop flows would repeat them and enter data or read data from the system interface, pretending they're users. Then, of course, with the connectors, we can connect Cloudflow to cloud services or on-premise systems. And we can utilize AI, artificial intelligence resources as well. Let's add Canvas apps to the picture. Again, Canvas app are using the same connectors, and they can connect directly to those services as well. But Canvas apps can call Cloud Flows as well. And they can utilize directly AI Builder, for example, object recognition. So you point your camera into the shelf in your storage, and it can calculate or recognize your products, and they can even calculate the products which are laying on the shelf. That's really nice scenario. And let's add one more. So it's Power Virtual Agents, which has only one connectivity to Cloud Flows. So Power Virtual Agents allows us to create chatbots in a low-code approach. And then through Power Automate, we can get to AI Builder as well, and also to desktop flows if we want to get there. And any other resources, for example, Power Virtual Agent through connector can call Business Central and check the list of products or make an order if somebody in the support chat asked for a product catalog or asked to place an order. So you can do it route directly to your Business Central. Okay, so we deconstructed the one part of Power Platform that was connector based. Now let's take a look into another part. It's Dataverse based. And Dataverse, so usually it sounds like a database as a service. Of course, it's only in the cloud. There's no on-premise solution available for that. So it's originating as the data layer from the CRM. So it brings all the legacy and all the logic from many years before, from the beginning of CRM. But actually, Microsoft is able to modernize it very quickly, and it made it as the separate product, separate service of its own, on which you can build any other apps, model-driven apps, and etc. So it's decoupled from CRM. Okay, but is it just a database? Actually, no, and it has much more things around. And in the center stands an APIs, because when you are creating Dataverse tables, as in database or relationships, you automatically are getting APIs, OData APIs, just at no cost, at no time, the same second. Create a table, API, OData API there. And all standard other applications are using this API, but you can build any custom integration or application which is using the same API. It's very well documented and very robust experience and high security level. But that stands in the center. Now, what else we have in the Dataverse? So, of course, the first is security level authentication, authorization, and also auditing, which is really nice. Dataverse can track any action any user, as through interface, through APIs, are doing, creating records, reading records, updating something, even deleting. You can cache deletes and later even restore the data if somebody has accidentally deleted the records. Then we have business logic, which is extendable with a .NET plugins, and there are other mechanisms to modify the business logic. So it's business rules, there are duplicate detection rules, workflows, system jobs, calculated fields, and etc. Then we have data itself, where we have a catalog, we have data modeling, dashboards, reporting, available right in the Dataverse. And really interesting part, which I'll be speaking a bit later as well, it's a mobile offline, because when you are creating tables, and you are using usually through the web, but there is a mobile application available as well. But there's really nice feature, which is mobile offline. You can configure without any development that you can use that mobile application in offline mode. When you lose the internet, you have your data with you. You define synchronization rules, and you can get that. And yeah, so that's not true that the Dataverse apps or model-driven apps are only for web or desktop. No, there is mobile applications available as well, but not even mobile. It's also for Outlook, application for Outlook. Really nice application where you connect your emails and other communication directly to the Dataverse. Then, of course, we have database itself, unstructured database files, automatic search via Azure Search, automatic indexing. So it's really, really advanced search capability as well, connecting requests from different tables and applying even artificial intelligence on top. And then we have integration layer, which can automatically integrate to Azure Event Hub, Service Bus. We can add webhooks, export to SQL, export to Data Lake, and etc. So it's really complex set of feature. It's not only relational database. It's relational database plus all the data layer capabilities as a service for you. So now if we look into Dataverse, so it's simple. On Dataverse, there lives only model-driven apps and Power App portals from our Power Platform components. And what if we add Dynamics 365 business applications? So all the apps which are CRM or customer engagement based applications, so it's sales, customer service, field service, marketing, or project service automation, which is now deprecated and being replaced with the project operations, they live technically within this CRM engine, or actually physically, they live and being developed as model-driven application on top of Dataverse. Now, as Business Central, it maintains its own infrastructure, own database and servers and etc. Both it could be SaaS or it could be on-premise. And for both scenarios, we can do an integration database to database, which is called data sync, or virtual table integration, which is two options for you. We'll discuss it later as well, and in today and also in the further sessions. And now if we combine those parts together, so of course the artificial intelligence is missing, but we know that we can reach it through connector-based part. Now let's see when we join this modern part and Dataverse part into one picture. So of course, as we started the Dataverse, so we have the Business Central Dataverse database to database integration. Then on top, we have model-driven apps and portals. And then we have Cloud Flows, Canvas apps, which can access, let's say, Business Central through connectors. And also, Canvas apps can access Dataverse through connectors. And it's possible to build an app without integrating the data here, just loading through connectors all data live and updating. Of course, it depends on scenario and it should be architecturally revised how it makes sense to do. And of course, we can use Power Virtual Agents, and through flows, it connects to other parts. There is also possibility, because Canvas apps is nice, it could be a standalone mobile applications, but it could be also embedded into the web and consumable through the web browser as well. So in the model-driven apps, we can embed them into our forms as the one control, or now there is really new functionality where we can build a custom pages. So within model-driven app, where we quickly get all the access-based, Microsoft Access-based style things like forms and views just by configuration. And then we can, if we need something more advanced, like, I don't know, product configurator, where we need to more tiny pieces, more hierarchy, visualization, and etc., we can embed a Canvas app or custom page in the model-driven app, or we can embed Canvas app to the Business Central. That's also if the standard tools does not allow us to be more flexible enough, we can go and utilize that with a Canvas app and use it just within Business Central, for the same users without going out of the context. So that's also a very interesting scenario. Now, as we covered those two worlds of modern part, connector-based, and Dataverse part, so let's do another poll and check for those who already had some familiarity with the Power Platform and also with Power BI and Business Central. So let's check which components you have already used and tried yourself. So let's roll the new poll. Okay. Okay, so it seems Power BI is winning with a 32%. That's a pretty natural thing because Power BI itself is the most popular service. Of course, technically it's different, and for development, of course, when we do connectivity, then it's kind of more administrator, architect job to do that. But later, it's usually data scientists who are building actual reports and doing the analytics on top of that. Okay, so Power BI is winning 33, and then we have Power Apps 20% and Power Automate 19%, and then Dataverse 10%. Nice. So it seems that since Dataverse connected to model-driven apps, so out of Power Apps 20%, we can say that just half tried model-driven apps and half tried Canvas apps, probably. I guess that. And of course, the Power Virtual Agents and AI Builder is the least used component here. And Power App Portals is in the middle. Okay. Let's get back to the presentation. And yep. So let's check the licensing part. Because nice thing with the Power Apps and Power Automate licenses, because Microsoft is licensing, there is a separate licensing for each component: Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. And some of them include each other into the usage rights. So there are standalone individual licenses. Let me point out, it's in the middle. Now it's getting cheaper, like Microsoft is cutting prices by half. Let's say there was Power App per app license from $10 to $5. But when we're speaking about Business Central scenario, so actually Power App and Power Automate license usage is included in the full Business Central license. It's not included in the Teams license, but it's included in the full enterprise license. And you can build Canvas apps, model-driven apps, portals, and cloud flows with that usage rights. And the limitation here, limited, it means limited in usage scenarios, is that your apps or flows should be related to Business Central. It means your users who have Business Central license, they cannot build, I don't know, unrelated application, I don't know, some COVID seat reservation tool or something. The app should be related to the context of Business Central. So that's important to be compliant. But as licenses are getting cheaper and you feel the power of Power Platform, then you can go for a full license as well very easily. Now, the last question is, so where is Power BI in that picture? And so technically it's separate. And if we see on the left, the Power Platform environment, because all the components lives in the environment, and Canvas apps and model-driven apps and flows and portals and AI and Dataverse. So they live all together in one environment and they manage together and deploy it and etc. Like but Power BI is a separate service, and it's combined into the workspaces. And then we can connect Power Platform other components to Power BI, of course, by data. And Power BI is using Power Query connectors. So it's very important to note that because it's also the name and terminology is kind of the same, connector, and etc. So it's very important to make a distinguishing that the connectors which I was speaking before, like that 500 plus, it's API based connectors. Of course, they can connect to databases as well, but they are serving only Canvas apps and Power Automate flows. While Power BI connectors, it's called Power Query connectors, and it's relational data set type connectors, and they can connect to different, mainly data sources in the cloud, on premises as well. Of course, they can connect to APIs and so on. So, and from the Power Platform, like from the Dataverse, that's where data lives, the data is being loaded into Power BI data sets or data flows via API. That's an old way, or now Microsoft opened a TDS protocol. So there is a direct database queries which supports a faster data loading and etc. So that's how all the rest of Power Platform connectors are related to Power BI. Okay, so now we covered deconstructed a bit the Power Platform. So let's take a look how, based on that model, we can integrate it with the Business Central. And we have the question for you again. So let's see what kind of integration scenarios you have tried already, if you tried anything. Okay. Let's take a look. Okay, we have only one option, unfortunately, here. So please try the most, the scenario which you have tried the most. Of course, Power BI is winning. And couple answers for Dataverse integration and Canvas apps. That's nice. Oh, even virtual tables and entities. That's super nice. Even more than Dataverse. Cool. That's a new technology, which is still in a preview. I'll talk a bit later. Good. So 62% Power BI, 18% Canvas apps and Power Automate flows, 10% virtual tables, and 7% Dataverse, and 4% other. So if, what's that other? If somebody can share in the chat. Oh, through SharePoint lists. Okay. Good. SharePoint lists. Yeah, so SharePoint is not considered to be a part of Power Platform. Of course, it's very well integrated through connectors and etc. And we oftenly use, especially in CRM, there are lots of connectivities in Power App portals, and Dataverse, there is out-of-the-box connectivity. But yeah, SharePoint itself is treated as one of the Microsoft Office 365 services. But yeah, that's nice to hear that scenario as well. Okay, let's move forward. We still have some content to go. So now, okay. So we deconstructed our Power Platform into 3 categories: connector-based, modern, Dataverse, classic, and Power BI Analytics. That's very obvious. So now let's see what kind of scenarios we can open in each of that world. So connector-based. So of course, as we already learned, it's direct access to Canvas apps and Power Automate Cloud Flows. I want to get back one more time into RPA scenario, robotic process automation, because that's really cool and that's really new. And so many partners who already tried Power Platform before, they still don't know that this possibility exists. And even though they don't have direct connectors to Business Central or other parts, but through Power Automate Cloud Flows, because Power Automate Cloud Flows orchestrates all the robotic process automation flows and execution. So we can get there. And there are really nice scenarios. I will cover that very soon. Then we have Power Virtual Agents and Artificial Intelligence Builder. So connectors. So if you start, this is the screenshots from Power Automate, where you add new operation and you search for the connector and type in Business Central, and there are two connectors. Cool. And one is just Business Central, which is supposed to be used for SaaS only, and another Business Central on-premise. Activities-wise and trigger-wise, it's really different behavior. And actually, in both scenarios, it's still not. It really lacks some features. And so normally, if we want to create really good, valid scenario with a Canvas app or Power Automate Flow and Business Central, we usually go with the custom connectors and create connectors ourselves, because Microsoft in this area is a bit struggling, and the connectors itself, they are still in a preview, and they're in a preview for a while. Of course, there might come a day, because Microsoft is doing these major updates twice per year called waves, and so it might come update, but at least at the moment, all of those actions or triggers are in a preview as the connectors itself. So by design, it's not supposed to be used for production. But I mean, it works usually without bugs, but it lacks some crucial functionality. So that's why I'm mentioning it needs some treatment. And so we'll go into all technical details in our next session coming next week about Business Central and connector type integrations together. And we'll share tips and tricks and areas how to get into really usable scenarios. But now let's check into samples and scenarios. It's coming from experiences from our partners with whom we have worked. And so connector-based scenarios, we have, for example, scenario when we need to do some barcode scanning, QR code scanning, etc. And that becomes very crucial when it comes to SaaS or Business Central online version, because we're losing connectivity to hardware devices. But we can build a custom Canvas application, which could run on the mobile, and then it can access device capabilities like GPS to, let's say, track the location of some agents or remote workers when they change the statuses, for example. It can get access to camera to do the simple scanning and to find the products from the product catalog in Business Central. Then one of the scenarios when we want to equip our users who have very specific roles and they don't need full access to Business Central. So, for example, time entry. So to make it very smooth experience, because with a Canvas app, you can design all the interface yourself, how it looks like, how it predicts, how it suggests users something, and etc. So it's much more flexibility in your hands to control the user interface compared to Business Central. And if you need one specific task or one specific role, like somebody just enter leads on the field, or enter new customers while having just live engagements. Otherwise, they would need to open out of the box Business Central application and go through the forms and etc. So with this, we can really get into smooth user experiences and really optimize the way how to do it with the less clicks and etc. Or scenario also with inspections, somebody going to the field with a really concrete assignments where they need to go through the specific forms, take a picture or scan the barcode to find the product in the catalog and etc. Then many of our customers have, especially migrating from on-premise to SaaS scenarios, they used to have some connectivity to integrations to document management systems or some services like even file services and etc. So today in the SaaS world, we can implement those scenarios like connectivity to SharePoint or Azure files or OneDrive or Google Drive or Dropbox via Power Automate because there are connectors available and we don't need to develop the logic ourselves as Business Central extension. We can rely on Power Automate and connectors which are already developed. There is even the file system connector. Of course, it goes through a data gateway because it connects to physical server on premise or PC. But we can rewrite the scenario based on the Power Automate, and that's much more flexibility. Of course, chatbots for internal or external usage, embedded to your website or even embed to Facebook or other messenger apps. There is available connectivity. Another scenarios our partners are facing is form or invoice document processing and digitalization. When you feed the scanned forms and then you want to plug in artificial intelligence to find in unstructured data and non-standardized forms like invoices, you need to find where is sender, where is receiver, where is the total, what are the lines, and etc. And recognize the text, recognize the language, translate the text, submit it to the system. So all the things you can process with a Power Automate, with an AI builder, or even plug in Azure resources very easily because there are connectors to Azure services as well. And later you can just automate the submission directly to Business Central via Business Central connectors. Okay, so Dataverse. So as you learn, so we have model-driven apps, we have CRM living on top of Dataverse as well, and we have portals. So now let's take a look into two possible scenarios how we can integrate database to database or the Business Central database to a Dataverse database. So we have, let's say, older approach, which is here for a while. It's data synchronization. When data is being copied either in one direction or bi-directional, with the many rules and etc. So we'll cover it in a dedicated session. We'll go into all the technical details. And the new approach, which is still in a preview, is a virtual tables, or used to be called virtual entities, when the data itself is not copied, but it's being edited live from Dataverse, updated, read it, created, and etc. But all the communication happens live through APIs. And this only is supported in the SaaS version and in the latest updates of that as well. And it's still in a preview. Okay, but all the technical details we will go in the next session. So now let's take a look into a couple of scenarios which we can do when we integrate the data between the databases and it automatically synced. Let's say customer to customer, contact to contact, order to order, and etc. So one of the scenarios, we have Power App portals, and Microsoft has so-called templates, or you can build it from scratch as well. Usually the scenarios are customer, self-service portal, partner, vendor. You integrate data, then you define the rules, how it's being presented for public. You define the security model, and that's very important, to not to leave the default settings and etc. And then every customer would see their orders, history, and or they can place new orders and etc. Then we have integration with the Dynamics CRM application. So it's like sales, customer, field service, and etc. We used to have one field service scenario when the ordering, like quotation, was happening in Business Central. Then it went to CRM. Then all the work order execution happened in CRM. Then hours were reported, and hours were integrated back to Business Central for invoicing. Then we can build the custom applications on Power Platform, model-driven apps, when we feel that when customer asks to please extend us, there's some business logic, some kind of our custom needs, like we want to track, I don't know, our internal kind of satisfactions or something, where you see that it doesn't fit ERP scenario. So it's very easy to do the integration and build those things as the model-driven apps in the Dataverse. And then, as I already mentioned about offline, so there is a misconception that you think as the Canvas app as the only option for mobile app, but really that's a hidden caveat where you can integrate your data, and then you just by configuration, you enable offline and you get mobile application with all the offline access, especially if you're traveling, if you're going to storages or cellars or somewhere for your field workers in where is lack of coverage. So it's really good scenario. And now the third part, Power BI integration. It's pretty obvious. We just connect to the data. Of course, naturally, in the large implementations, probably we would use some data warehouses or some data factory from Azure and etc. But in simple scenarios, we can do direct connection. And my colleague Igor will share that in the later session. But yeah, so what we can get here, we can get out of the box applications, Power BI apps, which already are prepared for Business Central data. The eval is not quite good, but it's simple and it's good to start as the reference for the further reports and dashboards you would build. And of course, company-wide reporting, reports, dashboards. And you can create dashboards and you can embed them back to Business Central UI so that users would consume them in the same context. And we also had a scenario when there was an app where the Power BI is a third-party app, custom developed, but we integrated lots of custom reports and dashboards about customer, how to check the customer, the old orders, the history about that. It seems not like a report, but like an app, which is really visually heavy and visually rich and etc. Okay, so now we ended up with an overview, the big picture architectural overview. And we have Q&A part now. Let me check. Do we have questions in the Q&A area? Is the Power Automate BC connector still only in the preview? Yes, I mentioned that. It's still in the preview, and we'll just explain how to really make it into the action on the next session. Pricing. No, there was no plan to cover pricing. But yeah, so I shortly mentioned during the my slide about the licensing. And so in general, if you want to use Power Automate, Power Apps, or Portal, or Model-Driven, or Canvas as the extension, like logical extension of your Business Central solution, then it's fine. It's covered within the same Business Central license, the full big enterprise license, not the Teams license. And then if you're going for a different scenarios, like the scenario which doesn't fit ERP, you build another model-driven app, then yeah, you would need to buy the Power App license, which app license includes Power Automate to support the apps itself. But again, the starter plan, the per app, if it's only one app in the organization, now from October 1st, it will be only $5 or equivalent in euros. Okay. Will you focus on SaaS or on-prem in next sessions? We'll mention in both scenarios how to connect to how to utilize both SaaS and on-premise scenarios. So we'll be talking about each of them and which scenario is limited only to SaaS or which scenario supports both and how we can connect to both areas. Okay. Good. So just a few last slides. Just let me share that. So as now we are doing the series of webinars about integrating Business Central and Power Platform, and if you are struggling to implement that yourself, or you are able to just connect, but you are struggle with all the Power Platform part, so we are happy to help you here. And we are offering you for the attendees of this webinar series a 30-minute free of charge scoping workshop where we would connect with our specialist, and based on your we would provide you technical questionnaire, and then we'll have the discussion with you what you want to achieve, how we can help there, and then after this discussion we can provide you a rough estimate and proposal how we can help. And maybe it's a very simple problem and it could be easily solved, or it might be a big project. So we are ready to help you here, our partners, because our One-Click Factory and QBS group goal is to support partners inside our network for them to be able to deliver good solutions to the customers. And this special offers that you can submit and apply through this request form. My colleagues will share it in the chat and also in the follow-up, and you can do it while all this series is running just before the October 1st. Okay, and yep, there are three more webinars coming. We'll go deeper into technology with the demos and technical discussion and technical tips. So you can register to each of them additionally. So as we split into the 3 parts. And last thing, handouts. Now they are available. So the summary of the session and also the information about the trainings we have for Power Platform and the CRM world. Of course, our much more mature business lines of Business Central has many other things to offer, and we are collaborating with them on this engagement as well, how to integrate well with the Power Platform and how to succeed for you and how to get the correct solution, both doing implementation in Business Central and in the Power Platform. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to see you in the next sessions. And have a nice evening. if you are coming from our European time zone.